everyone, Julian here, and today I'm going to be showing you the much requested how to make Drumcode Techno like Pig&Dan. As usual, you can get the full project file, samples, MIDI, presets, everything from this video is available right at the top of the description, and if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there, because it's already available. And yeah, let's dive in. So, this loop we heard in the intro, we're at 128 BPM, pretty standard BPM with this style of techno. And the first sound we have here is this lead, which sounds like this. So, this is the pattern here with MIDI. You can see it's actually a pretty simple pattern. If I move these down an octave, you can see it's all just in this C minor scale. So that's the key we're in this track. And so you can see we have C, so that's the root note. We have D, which is the ninth, D sharp, which is the minor third, and then we have G, which is the fifth. And then I just put all those notes up an octave. But yeah, so it's actually pretty simple. Again, these are all just notes from the C minor scale. It's not anything crazy, you know, just kind of playing with them rhythmically and making them kind of fit together with the rest of the elements in the track to make something creative and catchy like this. For the sound with this one, it's made using two layers actually. So basically what it is we have these two wavetables. This one. And then this one. And so the reason why we have two of them here is because I had this patch, which is sort of the main sound, but it didn't have like that high layer. So I wanted to add, essentially this is just working as like another oscillator. But yeah, so with the first patch, you can see it's just a saw wave, an octave down, and then a square wave, an octave up from that. On the square wave, I've got a little bit of pulse width modulation, and then we've got the amp envelope set like that. And then with the second one, it's the same patch. You can see we just have a saw wave, an octave up, and then same amp envelope. And yeah, again, it's just because there's only two oscillators on wavetable. So I'm just using this instrument rack to essentially have a third oscillator. And in reality, you can use this to have as many oscillators as you want. Like, if you wanted to have a synth that had 9 oscillators, you could just do 9 instances of wavetable here and have them all be different. So, definitely like an interesting way of working with the synthesis here. After that, I have a bit of chorus. This is just spreading the sound out. We've also got this echo and this reverb, so you can see the echo is on dotted eighth notes. We've got it on the ping pong setting, so it's going back and forth from the left to right ear and adding a lot of stereo width to the sound. And then this reverb is just giving it space. There's without that. And then with it, so you can hear these are pretty prominent, but yeah, they just give it that space and that fullness and the energy that you need. After that, we have the saturator and this drum bus. So these are both fattening the sound up. Here's without either of them. And then with the drum bus. And then with the saturator. So you can hear what's happening here. The drum bus is fattening this up. It's bringing out the reverb and the echo. It's making this all really strong and full sounding. And then the saturator is just on top of that, adding an extra little bit of fatness and kind of pressure to the sound. So yeah, definitely recommend stacking saturation like this. Like when you're trying to fatten your sounds up, you don't have to just use one. You can use two. You're able to get a bit more of like a nuanced and kind of controlled sound this way. After that, we have this echo, which you can see is just cutting out the low end and giving it a little bit of a high end boost. Then we have this auto pan here, which is just simulating this being sidechain. So you can see we have the phase on 0, and then I have it on quarter notes, and it's on this inverted saw wave. So it's just affecting the volume, and it's giving it kind of that pulse with the kick and bass line. Yeah, and then the last thing that we have on here is this width rack that I've just made. I'm going to be making a video about this really soon, so today, this is just a little bit of a preview, but that's just on here kind of spreading the whole thing out at the end. Here's without it, and then with it. So you can hear it's just giving it that extra little bit of boost to really sound full and wide and as big as possible in the mix. After that, we have the second lead, which sounds like this. So for MIDI, this one's really simple. It's just C. That's the only note that's being played here. It's just going between C, then C0 to C1 to C2. It's just going back and forth between those. You're just kind of adding some nice sort of like musical, rhythmic stuff. Because if we have just the first lead, you can hear it doesn't have as much like synergy, I feel like. But this gives you that thing that's kind of missing in between the drums and that main lead. So, but the sound with this one is made using wavetable. All it is just a saw wave with a little bit of a low pass on it. Here's without it. And then with it, just kind of cutting off some of those highs. We have the amp envelope set like this. And then the last thing inside the synth here is I have the unison on the classic setting, but then I have the amount on 0. So here's with it without the unison. And then with it. So just gives it a bit of a like bigger, more chorusy sound. Definitely a cool technique, just turning the amount down, because you still get that unison sound, but it's not taking up so much space. It's just like perfectly where it should be. And yeah, after that we have a bit of chorus, which is spreading it out. Here's without this. And then with it. Then we have this echo, which is on quarter notes, and then I have it on the ping pong setting. So this is just adding a bit of width. There's without it. And then with it, you can hear what's happening there. Then after that we have this drum bus. So you can hear without that versus with it, it's making this a lot more full, bringing out the echo a lot. And yeah, and then finally we just have this auto pan. This is the same as the one that was on the first lead, where it's kind of just making it sound like it's sidechain. With this sound, this is pretty important because it's got to fit kind of under that kick. And then finally, we just have a high pass filter cutting out the low end. And that is it for the second lead. After that, we have the kick, which sounds like this. So pretty simple, just like a really fat, nice kick like this. And then I'm just kind of going into a bit of saturation. There's without that. And then with it. And yeah, pretty simple again, just like a nice, fat techno kick. After that, we have the bass line, which sounds like this. So this is a new technique for making bass lines in techno that I've never shown you guys before, which is basically to take your kick and filter it down a bit, and then we've got this kind of pattern here where you can see it's quite nuanced. We've got like the velocities, all the different settings. And then you just kind of put that in, and there you go. You have a really cool, nice percussive bass line. And this is very different from a rumble kick, because a rumble kick tends to be more like, but this is more like, so you get that more like aggressive kind of like rhythmic bass line with this. And I've heard this in a lot of tracks, especially by these guys. Like in Reset Your Bassline, I'm pretty sure this is how they made the bass. And a lot of techno producers do this. But yeah, so like I said, the way I've done this here is it's just the kick sample that we use for the regular kick. Here's without the filter. And then what I've done is I've taken it in here and I've bandpassed it. So we're getting really just the low end. And then it's all, like I said, in how you set the velocities in the pattern. Because you can see there's a little bit of nuance to it. It's kind of like and we have a bit of call and response too, because there's like this pattern in the first half, and then this pattern in the second half. So doing something like that, I think, is pretty important, because that's what's going to kind of bring it to life. You know, if it's just this one aggressive pattern the whole way through, it's not quite the same as when you have two different things like that. So yeah, and then after the simpler, I just have a bit of reverb. Here's without this. and then with it. So you can see what's happening is I've turned the size and the decay down, so it's a really fast reverb. Like, it's not taking up that much space. It's just kind of adding a bit of texture to the sound, because you can hear without it, it sounds really dry and kind of flat. But then with it, it's got that, like, sort of reverby texture to it like you want in your bass lines. After that, I have a utility, which is just converting it to mono, because the reverb, as you can hear, makes it super wide. And you don't really want that with your bass line. You want the bass to be completely mono, so I've just converted that to mono. Then we just have a bit of saturation, and then this EQ, which is just cutting a bit at 100 hertz. I like to do this on almost all my bass lines, because it just cuts out a bit of room for the kick. And then finally, we just have a compressor sidechaining this to the kick. And then on the group of these, I just have a bit of drum bus to kind of, you know, make them a bit fatter. And kind of get the low end sounding right. Here's without this. And then with it. So you can hear I was just making everything a bit fatter. I've got the drive on the medium setting. We got the drive and crunch up. I have the transients up a bit as well. And yeah, you can hear it's just making these like a lot fatter and a lot stronger in the mix. After that, we have the hi-hats, which altogether sound like this. So the first one here is going to be this main open hi-hat, which sounds like this. So what this is it's 3 layers. We have this layer, kind of more of like the punch layer. This layer, which is adding in some mid-range. And then this layer, which is adding in the high end. And so we have all 3 of these together to get a really big and full sounding hi-hat. Because with this style, you want your hi-hat to be kind of like... You need to be as fat as the kick is. And the way you get that is just by layering together sounds to make it as full as it can be like this. While still keeping it clean, you know, it's not that obvious that it's layered. Like, it kind of just sounds like one really big hi-hat. But yeah, and then I just have a bit of a high-pass filter with a high-end boost. And yeah, and then this little reverb sweep down here. So the way that I made this is basically I recorded this hi-hat. So I have this here. We recorded this. And then what I did was I put some reverb on that. So what that sounded like was this. And then all I did was I just grabbed a little piece of that, like at the start, like right around here. And then you just take it and line it up with the hi-hat like so. And then I reversed it. Put a little bit of a fade on it. And there you go, that's how you get that sound. So it's a really simple sound to do. It's something I've heard in a few Pig&Dan tracks, and it's just a really nice thing to do with your hi-hats in general. I think you can really bring them to life. And yeah, after that we have the ride, which sounds like this. Pretty simple stuff, just like this really big ride sample. I've got a pitch down, I've got a high pass, and then I have an echo on here where you can see the left ear is at 29.9 milliseconds and the right ear is at 10.5 milliseconds. So we're getting this really wide stereo image because you're hearing each ear at a different time. So there's about that. And then with it, yeah, this needs to sit in a very particular place in the mix, where it's kind of like wider than everything else. That's how you make it stand out. And that's what that echo is doing. After that we have the synth hi-hat, which sounds like this. So what this is doing is it's just playing off of the shaker, because we have a shaker under here. And you can hear it's just on every other 16th note. What this is it's just some white noise. It's really simple. Just white noise, as you can hear. And then I have it going into a bandpass filter, which is set like that, and that's what makes it more of like a hi-hat. And then we have an LFO on that to kind of move the filter frequency and kind of change the texture of the sound. And then you can see I also have a bit of drum bus on this. And yeah, that's really it. It's pretty simple, but it's just adding something because the shaker is more on the high end. So then this is kind of like adding in that mid-range. You get that like sort of dynamic going on. And yeah, and then the last hi-hat we have is this little shaker, which sounds like this. You can see with this one, we've got the velocities kind of staggered. With like, and then you can see for the sample, I've just brought this in here, I shortened it a little, and then I have this reverb on here just to kind of give it some space. You know, it's really subtle, but you can hear that space in the hi-hats, and that's being created by the shaker. This is a great way to do it. Like, if you want your hi-hats to have a little bit of space, rather than just throwing a bunch of reverb on top of all of them, you can just put a little bit on this one. And it's enough to where the whole hi-hats still get that atmosphere to them. And yeah, and then on the group of those, I just have a bit of EQ and then a drum bus. Here's without anything. And then with the processing. So you can hear it just makes those hi-hats really hit and really have the fullness and fatness that they need to fit into this mix. So we just got the drum bus set. A little bit of drive, a little bit of crunch. It's on the medium setting, and then I've got the transients turned up so it's punching a lot more. And then the EQ, you can see, is just cutting out the low end and boosting the highs a little, and yeah. So that's it for the hi-hats, and that is also going to be it for this video, guys. So, I hope you enjoyed. As always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe, and let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Like I said in the beginning, you can get this full project file and samples and MIDI presets. Everything from this video is available right at the top of the description for just $5 on my Bandcamp. This is a great way to support me, guys. Don't make a whole lot of money off of these videos, but with these sample packs and different things that I do, I'm able to keep supporting myself off music and keep making these videos for you guys that you love every day. So yeah, definitely a great way to support me. Link is right at the top of the description. If you're a patron on my Patreon, it's available there. And yeah, thank you so much, guys, and I will see you tomorrow with another video.